It was once called the eighth wonder of the world, a breathtaking chamber constructed from over 6 tons of pure amber, gold, and precious gems. A masterpiece of art valued today at over $500 million. But in 1941, it was stolen by the Nazis, packed into crates, and then in the chaos of war, it vanished completely. This is the story of the lost Amber Room. The story begins in the early 18th century. The Amber Room was originally constructed in Prussia, a magnificent display of Baroque artistry. In 1716, as a gesture of goodwill to forge an alliance against Sweden, the Prussian king gifted the entire massive chamber to the Russian Tsar, Peter the Great. It was installed in the Catherine Palace near St. Petersburg, where it was expanded and embellished, becoming the crown jewel of the Russian court and a breathtaking sight for all who saw it. For 200 years, the Amber Room dazzled visitors, but its peace was shattered in 1941 when Germany invaded the Soviet Union. As the Nazis advanced, Soviet curators at the Catherine Palace made a desperate attempt to save their treasure. They tried to disassemble the amber panels, but the ancient amber had become brittle and started to crumble. In a last-ditch effort, they tried to hide it in plain sight, covering the magnificent walls with simple wallpaper. It didn't work. The Nazis knew exactly what they were looking for. They tore down the wallpaper, disassembled the entire room in just 36 hours, packed it into 27 crates, and shipped it west. The last time the original Amber Room was ever seen by the public was in the Castle Museum of Königsberg, a German city on the Baltic coast. It was proudly displayed there for 2 years. But as the tide of the war turned against Germany, the city became a target. In late 1944, massive Allied bombing raids leveled Königsberg, and a fire raged through the castle, gutting the museum. It is at this moment, in the fire and chaos of the war's final months, that the trail of the Amber Room goes cold. So what happened to the 27 crates? The simplest theory is that they were destroyed in the fires that consumed the castle. But many believe the Nazis would have moved their prized treasure before the bombs fell. This has led to decades of treasure hunts. Was it hidden in one of the thousands of abandoned mines in the German mountains? Was it loaded onto a ship like the Wilhelm Gustloff and now lies at the bottom of the Baltic Sea? Or was it found by Soviet soldiers and secretly taken back to Moscow? Despite countless searches, not a single panel of the original room has ever been found. The chamber was now a dazzling synthesis of German craftsmanship and Russian imperial splendor, 10 times more spectacular than its original design. For nearly 200 years, the Amber Room was the Romanovs' ultimate showpiece. It served as a private meditation chamber, a gathering room for intimate court functions, a trophy room to impress foreign dignitaries. Standing inside was like standing in a giant glowing jewel. 6 tons of amber gold leaf and hundreds of candles created an ethereal, otherworldly atmosphere. It testified to the immense wealth and power of the Russian Empire, a unique work of art with no equal. In the Catherine Palace, the Amber Room became bound to Russia's identity. After the 1917 revolution, the Amber Room's significance endured. The Soviet government recognized its cultural and historical value. The Catherine Palace became a public museum, with the Amber Room as its most famous attraction. Millions of visitors, Soviet citizens, and international tourists flocked to see the eighth wonder of the world. It was a relic of a bygone imperial age and a treasure belonging to the people. Its long and peaceful existence, however, was about to come to a sudden and violent end with the approach of the Second World War. But the Amber Room presented a unique and daunting problem. It was not a painting that could be rolled up or a statue that could be crated. It was the room itself. Its delicate, ancient panels were affixed directly to the walls. The museum curators made a desperate attempt to dismantle it. They carefully tried to pry the amber panels from their settings, but the years had taken their toll. The amber had become dry and brittle. When they tried to remove the panels, they began to crumble and crack. Fearing they would destroy the masterpiece in an attempt to save it, they abandoned the effort. A new, desperate plan was devised. The curators decided to hide the room in plain sight. They covered the precious amber walls with a flimsy disguise of common wallpaper, hoping that the invading soldiers would mistake it for an ordinary, unremarkable room and pass it by. This simple deception was tragically naive. The Nazis were not just soldiers, they were also systematic art thieves. They knew exactly what they were looking for. When German troops captured the town of Pushkin, formerly Tsarskoye Selo, in September 1941, they went straight to the Catherine Palace. They tore down the wallpaper and uncovered the glowing treasure beneath. The prize they had coveted was theirs. The looting of one of the world's greatest art treasures was about to begin. Under the supervision of Nazi art experts, German soldiers systematically and professionally dismantled the Amber Room. It took them just 36 hours. With ruthless efficiency, they pried the panels from the walls, carefully packed them into 27 crates, and loaded them onto military trucks. The jewel of the Russian Tsars was stolen. The empty, ravaged room in the Catherine Palace stood as a silent, heartbreaking testament to the cultural devastation of the war. The crated amber panels were shipped west, back towards Germany, on a journey that would lead them directly into the heart of the mystery. The stolen crates containing the Amber Room were transported to the city of Königsberg in East Prussia, which is now the Russian city of Kaliningrad. This location was highly symbolic. Königsberg was the historic capital of Prussia, the very place where the concept of the Amber Room was born over 2 centuries earlier. For the Nazis, this was not just theft, it was a repatriation, a reclamation of a German masterpiece. The crates arrived in the city and were taken to Königsberg Castle, a massive Teutonic fortress that housed a state museum. There, the Amber Room was placed under the care of Alfred Rode and a devoted amber specialist. For a time, the Amber Room was reassembled and put on public display in one of the castle's halls. Photographs from this period show the panels arranged in a new configuration, a proud exhibit of the Third Reich's looted treasures. It was a powerful piece of propaganda, intended to demonstrate German cultural superiority. Alfred Rode wrote enthusiastically about his new acquisition, cataloging the panels and celebrating their return to German soil. This exhibition in Königsberg Castle in 1943 represents the last time the Amber Room was seen in its entirety by the public. This exhibition in Königsberg Castle in 1943 represents the last time the Amber Room was seen in its entirety by the public. It was a brief final moment of glory before the darkness of war closed in. As the tide of the war turned against Germany, Königsberg's fate was sealed. The city became a primary target for Allied bombers. In August 1944, a series of massive bombing raids by the British Royal Air Force devastated the historic city center. Königsberg Castle was hit directly and burned for days. The intense fires gutted much of the ancient fortress. What happened to the Amber Room in this inferno is the central question of the mystery. Was it still on display, consumed by the flames and reduced to ash? Or had the ever-cautious Alfred Rode already had it dismantled and moved to a safer location? The final days of Königsberg descended into chaos. In April 1945, the city fell to the advancing Soviet Red Army after a brutal and bloody siege. The battle left the city in utter ruins. Königsberg Castle was a smoldering, rubble-strewn shell. When Soviet trophy brigades entered the ruins to search for the Amber Room, they found nothing. The crates were gone. The panels had vanished. Alfred Rode and his wife were found dead, reportedly from typhus, taking any secrets they held to the grave. The trail of the Amber Room went cold amidst the smoldering ruins of the city where it was born, creating a mystery that would endure for generations. The most straightforward and widely accepted theory: the Amber Room was simply destroyed. It perished in the final, violent months of the war. Proponents point to the intense Allied bombing raids on Königsberg in August 1944. Fires raged through Königsberg Castle. The blaze was ferocious, hot enough to melt stone, hot enough to melt steel. Amber is fossilized tree resin and highly flammable. The panels could have been on display or stored in the castle's cellars. Either way, they may have been incinerated in the air raids, leaving dust and scorched earth.